Hi, we're excited to have you here at Behind the Arch. My name is Chris Betcher, Associate Director of Alumni and Parent Relations at St. Norbert College. Behind the Arch is a news series in which we'll shine a spotlight on the talented folks at SNC as they share with you what they know and what they love, sometimes draw from their day jobs and other times are taken from their hobbies, pastimes, and adventures of lifelong learning. Behind the Arch allows us to engage with you, our St. Norbert College family, no matter where you are. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Todd Danen, class of '77, and Billy Falk, class of '08.
Thank you for joining us for today for Behind the Arch, connecting yesterday with today. My dear friend Todd and I are here. Oh, it's a great time to reminisce. Todd, I think we have to start at the very beginning of the college.
Yep, that's a good place to start, Billy.
It's always a good place to start.
Yep.
1898. Do you mind sharing a little bit of the knowledge you have about the start of this great institution?
Well, you realize I wasn't there at the time.
I do. I do know that.
That's good. Yep. So, yeah, 1898. It's a rather long story, which I'm not going to tell about how Pennings ended up at St. Joseph Parish in De Pere. But however, the first day of school, October 10th, 1898, one student, young man from West De Pere named Francis Van Dyke, later became a longtime athletic director, the gymnasium named after him.
Oh yeah, the campus center, okay.
Right, so he was our first student. Pennings began teaching him Latin. The space that they used would have been the old St. Joseph Grade School, which was located just to the south. It looked like a wooden boarding house, located just to the south of the church. So Van Dyke was there about 2 weeks on his own when he was joined by Anthony Vissers, number two. And then several weeks passed before the third student joined, another West De Pere kid by the name of, what's his name now? It's got to come to me a second. Savageau, Charles Savageau. Okay, so we have three kids that most likely attended St. Joseph Grade School. It's possible one of them would have been at St. Boniface, but probably three St. Joseph kids. And then several weeks passed when the fourth student and the final student in year one joined. And he was, just in case somebody's out there that's a family member, let's get this name down to Jack Marchant. Okay, so there was four. Jack was not a local kid. He came from, where did he come from? Holy Cross Parish in Bay Settlement, where Pennings, where the Norbertines, one of the parishes in southern Door County.
Sounds like we're going to have to get back to why De Pere. There seems to be more to that story. But let's fast forward a little bit now, Todd. So we've got the first four students. Talk to me a little bit about when the building started. Did Main Hall happen right away? Where did they learn? Yeah,
those first four ended up that first year. Most of the classes were held in a building called the where did the nuns used to live? The convent, right? But there wasn't a convent. That was just the name of the building. Okay. It was just to the east of where St. Joseph Church is now. Okay. So that was used as the classrooms for the four of them. Year two, so in the fall of 1899, there was a total of 12 students. Then by, again, using the convent as the main space for classrooms. And some of those 12 actually boarded with residents in the neighborhood. So they weren't all from De Pere. So then in year three, there was 22 students. And so by the time year three finished in the spring of the spring of 1900, would that have been? Or 19...
I don't do math, but yes, 3 years, 1901?
I guess it was 1901, the spring of 1901. There was talk about building, okay? So the diocese and the Norbertines talked, and the decision was made to build a college. And so that's where Main Hall first came to fruition. And so they started that project in late in 1901, and within a year they were actually inside. It wasn't quite finished yet, but they were using it. I think it turned out. I think it was in 1902, year 5. Got it. They moved into Main Hall.
Okay. And I'm going to jump forward a little bit in history. We are still living in this COVID-19 pandemic era. Did the college have anything with Spanish flu or any of those things that as we started to ride up towards 1915, 1920, like we had here with COVID-19?
Yeah. Well, World War I ended in 1918, right, November 11th. And quite a few St. Norbert students, had left the college. Not like World War II, but certainly some left. Just a side note here, Billy, if people are wondering, we lost 4 students during World War I. That being said, when they came home with the Spanish flu. And I know John Waters in our communications office did a little research on that epidemic, and the school was not closed. And I think if I recall from John's work, we lost either a student or a young alum. I believe he was from Kaukauna, who passed away from the Spanish flu. And then just if I can tell this quickly,
oh yeah, take your time.
The one story that I also recall John sharing, you found these in the De Pere Journal-Democrat, an old weekly newspaper, where Platteville was scheduled to play Stevens Point in football on a Saturday. On Friday, Platteville pulled out of the game. Stevens Point reached out to St. Norbert to see if they'd be willing to send over a team. Well, at that point, our football team was made up of just as many high school kids as there would have been college kids, most of them frauders.
Right.
And they decided to take the game. So we drove over to Stevens Point that Saturday afternoon, and before you could even blow the whistle, the score was 14-0. They ran the opening kickoff, they being Stevens Point, ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. They kicked off to us. Our kid fumbled. They picked it up and ran it in for a score. And so it was a long afternoon.
Yeah.
Not as bad as the Spanish flu, but
right.
No. What are you going to do?
No, not at all. Oh, is that a good story?
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit, Todd, in your memory banks of your research, of course, not being there.
Yes.
Think about, we all know that with COVID-19, we did our first semester here on campus in the fall in person, but we left the institution around March 15th, where all the students went home and we did our rest of our campus learning, through e-learning and virtual learning. Has there ever been a time on the history where the place would have cleared out just like that or similar to that?
Yeah, similar, close. World War II.
World War II.
Yep, it wasn't emptied, but it was close to emptied. And that occurred in the spring or late winter of 1943. So what happened there was all the students were told to enlist using their college address. And if I'm not mistaken, then they'd be protected from the draft, that they'd be able to finish college before they had to go serve.
Okay.
Turned out not to be the case. So they, anybody that was able enlisted, and that was done in the fall of 42. Well, suddenly, I think it was in February of 43 is when the first wave got called. And so students left in over a 2-month period. And there was probably 12 students left in each one of the 4 college classes. I mean, the high school kids were protected because of age. Remember, at the time, St. Norbert High School was a boarding school. The students stayed in Boyle Hall.
Right.
But the college sort of emptied out. And of the dozen or so per each class, 3/4 of those classes were Norbertines. They were frauders that did not have to serve unless they would volunteered. And we had just built what is now Burke Hall. Am I saying?
Burke Hall.
Burke Hall, right? It was at the time called Resident Hall, later Burn Hall, and today Burke Hall.
Burke Hall, yep.
We had just, that was the first year, 42, 43. And suddenly that building was empty. And obviously we needed bodies in there to pay for that. So it was,
yeah.
But that, I think, is the only time students left campus for any reason up until recently.
Right. Todd, talk to us a little bit about, I'm curious, when the frauders and the students and the day students and the high school, what kind of rules existed? I think about the rules when I was a student here and, quiet hours or study hours. What are some of the things that existed back in the day as rules to kind of keep the place in the line? Yep.
Well, I'm not certain about those early years other than one particular story Anthony Vissers had written about. I think it's in the 1917 yearbook, the first yearbook that college put out. Anthony talked about what occurred when he was a student. I think it was in 1901. So he is when movie theaters opened in De Pere.
Okay.
And they were off limits for the students.
Movie theaters were off limits.
Movie theaters were off limits for the students. There was 2 located on the west side and 2 on the east side. Whether all 4 were there at the time, but we had the town had a total of 4 theaters by the time the 1950s rolled along. But students weren't allowed to go to them, although obviously students being students, they would go.
Made their way.
And this note Anthony wrote once, it talked about how they were caught.
Oh, fun.
But of the 12 that were in the theater at the time, he said only 5 were apprehended. The other 7 were able to escape, and the other 5 never turned the 7 in.
Oh,
so
sounds
good camaraderie
like
there.
good camaraderie.
And as most likely, all of those turned out to be Norbertine priests. And, those first couple of classes.
Yeah.
Norbertine. So, and then moving forward, William, the curfew. Right?
Curfew.
I think
we actually put a curfew on the students in my time. 04 to 08, we did not have curfew, but we did have curfew for COVID-19 precautions.
Right. Yeah, and I know, how did that go?
I think it went okay. I would assume a little maybe like the movie theater at first,
Right.
but I think students really wanted to be here, so they followed it.
Well, there must have been a curfew from day one. I'm going to assume
Probably, yes.
right? Because it certainly existed. I mean, you can picture the guys coming back from World War II.
Yeah.
And some of these guys could be as old as 24, 25 years old, and they still had a 10 o'clock curfew.
10 o'clock.
On the weekends, on Friday and Saturday nights. No, excuse me. The weekends would have been midnight.
Okay.
But 10 o'clock from Sunday night to Thursday night, and that's lights out curfew in your room in bed, and the rector would check on you. There was a 7 o'clock study hour. You had to be in your room studying, and the Norbertines in charge of the resident hall would check to make sure these guys are in there. So that curfew went on, for quite a while. I'm not certain of these dates, but I talked with someone earlier today just to see if we can get a handle on it. But I'm hoping that alums that see this can share some of their stories regarding curfew. But in 1967 is, I think, the spring of '67 is when curfew went away. However, it only went away for the men, not the women. Okay, I don't know how that went over.
Right.
That would not go over today.
No,
would it not?
that would not go over today.
Probably not, but,
nor should it.
But at that time, I was, about junior high age.
Okay.
I think in the spring of '67, I was a 7th grader. So on Friday nights, if curfew ended if curfew was at 12 o'clock for the morning, I just remember a couple of Saturday nights sneaking out of the house with my buddies who lived in the neighborhood.
Right.
And we'd come over because it was like this mass exodus down 2nd Street because all the women were living on dorms on the north side of campus, and the men were on the 3 dorms, VMC, Sensenbrenner, and at the time would have been called Byrne Hall on the south side of campus. So they said goodnight to their girlfriends, at least the good guys, so the sassy guys probably were still there. I don't know that for a fact.
Nope.
So they make this hike down 2nd Street, and it was a mass exodus.
Yeah.
It was quite a, and so, we were always looking to see if somebody had one of those 6-pack of beers hanging there, and see if we can't maybe do a little sip, at that age. Nothing that got us in too much trouble.
Right. Not like going to a movie theater.
But apparently, it was a year, maybe 2 years later, before curfew was dropped for the women.
Oh, wow, that long.
That just couldn't have been a good time on campus during that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Todd. That was a lot of fun. I hope you're having just as much fun as I am. Thank you for joining us. If you have anything to share, facts, figures, things we may have screwed to the truth on a little bit, let us know by emailing alumni@snc.edu. We'd be happy to talk about it at the next episode of Behind the Arch.